I've always been drawn to writers like Emily Pohl-Weary, who have a strong background in D.I.Y. culture, do-it-yourself. Emily's the founder of the Toronto Street Writers, a free writing group for inner-city youth, and a co-founder of the Academy of the Impossible, a community learning center co-founded with husband Jesse Hirsch. As for writing, Emily seems to come by it quite naturally. Her grandparents are famed science fiction writers Judith Merril and Frederick Pohl. In 2003, Emily won a Hugo Award for a biography of her grandmother, Better to Have Loved, The Life of Judith Merril. She's also the editor of the female superhero anthology Girls Who Bite Back and the author of A Girl Like Sugar and Strange Times at Western High. Her latest book, Not Your Ordinary Wolf Girl, is set to be released on readers this September. I met with Emily at the Academy of the Impossible to talk about how it's time to say no to work when it's no longer fun, and how saying yes to fun has always led to more work.
I grew up in a household where reading was a huge part of life, and my mother's parents in particular are science fiction writers, or my grandmother was a science fiction writer. She passed away in 1997, but I have these memories of being dropped off at her office, which was in the spaced out library and later became the Merrill Collection of Speculative Literature, part of the Toronto Public Library system. And her way of babysitting me was to just kind of point me in the direction of a whole bunch of books. So I'd sit out in the hallway. At the time, she was a chain smoker pretty much, and she was still allowed to smoke inside public buildings. She would sit in her office chain smoking and surrounded by paper and books, and I would be just outside in the hallway reading fantasy novels, whatever I could get my hands on, Piers Anthony, and she would try to push me in the direction of women writers, feminist women writers, and intellectuals, and I just wanted the heroic adventure stories. And my grandfather's also a science fiction writer on my mother's side, and he's still writing. He's 93. He is an inspiration to me in terms of continuity and really taking yourself seriously as a writer. Up until he turned 80, he wrote 4 pages a day, but he's still writing books, which is an amazing thing for someone in their 90s. And to me, it was work. There's no difference between that and building a house. That kind of work ethic, that no one's going to make something happen for you. You have to make it happen. And to also take what you love and what you value and turn it into your job.
With the work ethic in place, half the battle was won, but when did the fire start to burn? When did Emily realize she had inherited the gene that she was a writer?
I was thinking back the other day in grade school, I cast all of my classmates in The Wizard of Oz and rewrote it. I don't know why, but decided that I could possibly do a better job than L. Frank Baum in play form. And when you think back, I have a photo of myself at about 12 working on my mother's typewriter, before computers. And my mother has come into the little nook where we had the typewriter, and I'm basically throwing myself over the keys and over the paper saying, go away, don't look, it's private. And I have a million half-finished notebooks from when I was a kid. And then I went to school, my bachelor's degree was in translation. So I wasn't calling myself a writer, but I was using the computer lab to basically make my zines. I learned how to do desktop publishing. I got all my friends to write pieces and put them together in these tiny little books. Gave them names like We Have Lives and Title Here, Name Here, and eventually sort of formalized that into a little magazine called Kiss Machine, which I published for 8 years. And at its height, I think I was earning $4,000 a year for what was a lot of work. So as soon as it became something that was not a zine and not just this passion thing, it became less fun. But it turns out anytime I do a writing workshop, it seems I'm actually making a zine. And in my heart, that sensibility of not waiting for someone to open the front door for you, but to go in a window is there in everything I do.
At the age of 21, Emily found herself writing 2 books simultaneously, one a memoir of her grandmother, Judith Merril, and the other her first novel in the voice of a young woman.
My grandmother actually and I had been working on recording her memoirs for the year or two before she passed away. She actually left a little bit of money in her will to give me, I think, a bit of a kick, which is a huge thing. It took me 4 years to finish the book about her life, which was called Better to Have Loved, The Life of Judith Merrill, and it won a Hugo Award and was a finalist for the Toronto Book Award. And that was my first book. And then my novel came out, which was a completely different voice, a completely different kind of thing, with a small feminist press that no longer exists, McGilligan Books. And then worked on an anthology called Girls Who Bite Back, a poetry book, another novel, a series of comics. It was always kind of driven by where my passion lay. What is it that I want to spend a couple of years doing?
At this point in her career, Emily could have just shuttered the blinds to work on the next book. Instead, she's been mentoring youth, giving them a meeting space in which to try their own hand at writing, along with a community of peers. She's also the co-creator of the Academy of the Impossible.
The Academy actually grew out of a program that I'd been running for a few years called the Toronto Street Writers, which is a writing group, a free writing group for youth between the ages of 16 and 29 in Toronto. And we found that something was going right in that group. People were coming back, it was growing, and I really wanted to be able to have a space where we could put art on the wall and have books that people could borrow or keep. We ended up getting some funding for different things, for other programs related to writing or outside writing that the youth had been asking for. There are other partner organizations who run other kind of programs here. It's a social business set up to be kind of like a co-op.
So if hindsight is indeed 20/20, can Emily look back over the course of her career to date to recognize any kind of continuity?
I guess I'm drawn to the fringes in almost everything I do, from the zines to, writing. It's working some sort of magical realism or fantastical elements into real life, because real life is hard and harsh. And I'd say for sure my teen years were among the hardest in my life. I feel sometimes like I'm just lucky to have survived them. And if I can create a female character who gives that girl like me a little hope or a little bit of guidance in terms of just be and learn to be. That sounds cheesy, but so much of that age is just learning what your own values are and what's important to you. If I can pass that on through my writing workshops with the street writers or through my fiction, I feel like my life has some sort of purpose.
Emily's latest novel, Not Your Ordinary Wolf Girl, is about an 18-year-old rock star, Sam Lee, a super talented bass player and songwriter for an all-girl indie band, and an incurable loner. One night after a concert in Central Park, she's attacked by a wild dog. And you can leave the rest to your imagination, but why would you? Not Your Ordinary Wolf Girl will be available this September, published by Penguin in Canada and Skyscape in the US. I'm Julie Wilson, and this has been a 49th Shelf podcast.